Stocks are moving on chain. In fact, there's over $360 million worth of tokenized stocks on chain, and the monthly transfer volume on these is around roughly 72 million. This is very early still, obviously, but we are starting to see Wall Street flooding on chain. I think over time, we're going to continue to start to see more and more developments around tokenized stocks, especially as we do start to see more players accelerating this. But what's crazy about this is that $55 million worth of this tokenized stock value is actually on the XRP ledger. That's right. XRP already has $55 million tied to it from tokenized stocks. And this is all through Archix, for an example. And again, with XRP, I've been talking about how XRP is starting to expand its overall, tokenized market, right? We're now starting to see more stablecoins launching on XRP. We're also now witnessing more stocks on XRP as well. We see US treasuries, non-US government debt. So the market for XRP's tokenized economy, if you will, is starting to wake up. Now, this just started back in the beginning of this year. So the fact that we're already at 157 million and we're actually up almost 35% in the last 30 days should tell you exactly where XRP is headed around the tokenization revolution. But what's crazy about this is if we think about where stocks are compared to the overall market for stocks, we are just a drop of water in the bucket right now, because this market has so much more money to add to it, number one. Number two, we have a lot more players to actually come over to the space and start tokenizing stocks. Right now, if we actually look at the networks here, we could see the networks. We could also see the issuers. A lot of the big players are not even a part of this yet, right? We already know that BlackRock's here, Fidelity's here, all of the big, asset management companies and things like that. But I'm very excited to watch Wall Street really turn the green light on and say, that's it, we're moving on chain. And that will happen. I'm telling you guys right now, that will happen, because in this video, I want to go over a lot of information regarding, Wall Street flooding on chain. But let's actually start off with this recent move, which was back on June 11th, with tokenized treasuries go live on the XRP ledger. Ondo finances OUSG unlocks institutional access with seamless mint and redemptions via Ripple's ROUSD stablecoin. Now, if you guys already know about Ondo, good. If you don't, you should. I've made videos on Ondo for like the last couple months. And the reason why is because Ondo already has Ondo Global Markets, which is Wall Street meet DeFi. And if we actually look at this a little bit, you could see how this is tokenized stocks. We have Tesla stock, Visa stock. On the bottom there, you have NVIDIA stock. You also have the actual, ETFs, index funds, equities, things like that. So, Ondo really wants to bring Wall Street 2.0 on chain. And even more recently, on the 17th, they did announce Global Markets Alliance to advance tokenized securities. This is a crypto-focused alliance aimed at providing smooth standards for tokenized securities. They also plan to launch a tokenization platform called Ondo Global Markets, which already did launch. But when we think about the players that Ondo is actually working with, we already know that Ondo is working with some very big players. And yes, Ripple is one of them. Now, when it comes to Ripple, if we actually look at this announcement, we could see down here that tokenization is no longer a concept confined to white papers and pilot programs. Instead, it is set to reinvent global financial infrastructure, as Ripple and Boston Consulting Group highlight in their recent report. Asset tokenization will turn static assets into dynamic programmable tools and pave the way for a $19 trillion market by 2033. That feature takes a concrete step today. With Ondo Finance's Ondo short-term U.S. government treasuries is now live on the XRP ledger. This milestone expands institutional access to one of the most credible institutional-grade real-world assets on chain, accessible via seamless minting and redemptions with Ripple's enterprise-grade stablecoin ROUSD. This is a new era for tokenized U.S. treasuries. On the same path of this, right, we got to remember that this is all based around institutional DeFi, and we're also looking at Wall Street, right? Bringing these types of things on chain is paving the way for the stock market itself to start moving on chain as well. The goal here is to basically have Wall Street 2.0. Wall Street 2.0, a more open tokenized market. Now, on top of this, if we think about this on top of what Vlad Tenev from Robinhood has been telling us, it makes a lot of sense. And in fact, we're starting to see this convergence in real time. We have over here, just in, Vlad Tenev discusses why tokenization for stocks is necessary from a risk management point of view, calls it inevitable.
I think there's a huge potential in the same way that stablecoins and stablecoin clarity driving US dollar dominance, particularly abroad, tokenization of securities could drive continued dominance of US companies. So that's going to be good for the companies themselves because it'll plug them into a global market of liquidity. And that could be useful for trading, but also for raising private capital, primary capital. It's also good for people outside the US because they could be plugged into the most innovative and attractive assets. It could be easier for those folks to build wealth over time. So I think those are the international benefits of it. Even in the US, it could be very, very helpful. The idea that you can self-custody a stock or a security is incredibly powerful because if you've tried to move your stocks from one broker to another, it takes multiple days. Sometimes you have to go into a physical branch office. You have to talk on the phone to someone. So people just don't do it. Your stocks are very much locked into a particular broker. And I think it's a risk management issue. If something happens to that broker and you're unable to get into and out of positions, I think that's a big problem. And that's just one of the things that tokenization could help address, which I think eventually when everyone kind of sees the benefits of this technology, it'll go from being a possibility to actually being inevitable.
And yeah, it's not so much about it being a possibility anymore. We're actually starting to see this happen. I think it's crazy because Ripple kind of did, they kind of already told us that it's happening, right? Back at the end of May, they said if it's happening on chain, it's happening with Ripple. Find out how blockchain is changing finance and just about everything else too. They already showed us these images where they said it's happening. Then they also have, this Marinucci line. And then also they have the Wall Street Bull. And then at the end, it's Ripple, payments, custody, and stablecoins. When we think about finance flooding on chain and, this big push on tokenized stocks, it's already here. I mean, we already have stocks on chain. We already have stablecoins on chain. We already have US treasuries on chain. We already have global bonds on chain, private credit on chain, commodities on chain, institutional funds. All of this stuff is already starting to move on chain. If you're doubting this now, I hate to be you in, say for so a year from now, because this value on chain is only going to continue to accelerate more and more. At the beginning of the year, we were at $15.7 billion. We're now at almost $25 billion. We almost added $10 billion to the total RWAs on chain in 6 months. That's wild. And it's only going to accelerate more and more and more. We know this is the case because the government is already trying to move into stablecoins, which is really, I would say that confirms the push that we will see digital fiat currencies launching around the world. We're going to see stablecoins grow even more, which also enables all of these other markets because now stablecoins are becoming even more liquid, which opens even more markets. I mean, this is the revolution. It's already here. And what's crazy about that is if we go back here to April 14th, we heard from Ethereum CEO, Ripple is building the new Wall Street with XRP and Hidden Road. Now, I want to play this clip, and then I also want to go over another video clip from Ethereum CEO, which is also saying something very similar.
Store value. And I think that other cryptos, including XRP, have a use case, a legitimate use case. I think XRP's is a wonderful working model. I think that it's only going to get better. They made an acquisition today where I believe they bought a prime broker, and that's really big news because that means they can there'll be almost instantaneous settlement across all asset classes inside that prime broker. It'll be a wonderful start to the new Wall Street, that's based on blockchain, that moves really quickly. No more 3 days for wire transfers. We're gonna have instant money, and that's good.
Yeah, and you mentioned.
Now, on top of that, over here, we do have the acquisition with Hidden Road. You guys already know about it, right? We've talked about it. But then over here, we also heard you're going to see rapid adoption. Everything is going to ramp up and go much quicker than it has. Ripple's changing Wall Street. Check it out.
But what we know about it is they bought a company called Hidden Road, used by a lot of hedge funds and traders and people to basically, it's a prime broker. Okay, and to clear trades and settle trades. So just think about being able to near instantaneously turn one asset into another asset, be it dollars into a foreign currency, or any sort of currency, dollars or other currencies into a commodity. All that stuff eventually is going to end up on the blockchain. All those transactions are going to end up on the blockchain. And XRP is the token. And again, they've got a stable coin that is necessary for making these things happen. All of that is happening behind the scenes. It's complicated. It's hard to describe. I certainly am no expert in being able to describe it, but I can tell you that it's here and it's working. It's being used aggressively in Asia. The only reason it wasn't used and being adopted faster in the US is because of the uncertainty of regulations and punishment. Quite frankly, banks were afraid of being punished for stepping into the crypto world where they couldn't. As that goes away and we have clarity in the regulation and permissions of what people can do, you're going to see rapid adoption of it's a better technology. Why take 2 or 3 days to settle something when you can settle it in seconds? That doesn't make any sense if you don't do that. And the only thing preventing people from do that is, number one, regulations. You can't be afraid. And number two, because those regulations are there and people are afraid, is being adopted slowly, so the build out is slow. Okay, but everything's going to ramp up and go much quicker than it has. It's not going to be an overnight change, but it is a change that is happening now, and that the rate of change will accelerate, I believe. And we're going to Ripple's changing Wall Street. They're changing Wall Street. They're not the only company doing it. Okay, they just happen to be the one that, in our opinion, is furthest ahead and really going to make big waves doing it.
And yeah, they are further ahead than most people out there. You got to remember, right, that Ripple has been building this infrastructure for years now. And also, Ripple has been ahead of almost all of the competition during this entire time by also working with regulators, or at least trying to be as compliant as possible. I feel like so many people miss how much work has been put into the entire Ripple ecosystem, including, of course, even XRP. You got to remember that XRP and the XRPL have been around since 2012. This isn't something new. And the technology has been trialed. It has been utilized by big companies, by big banks. They know how disruptive this tech is. So when we think about what's really going on here, yeah, Ripple is one of those companies. There's many big players in the space that are actually moving Wall Street on chain. Ondo is another big one, but think about all of the big players that we already know about that are doing this, and then look at possible connections and partnerships between them and Ripple. Guess what? You could almost guarantee that you will find some sort of connection to those big players, like Ondo, for an example. Or if we think about Securitize, or, we think about, DTCC. Right, like they acquired Securrency. Securrency had investments into Ripple and connections back to Ripple, or at least Ripple was an investor into Securrency. Like when we think about all of these connections, all of these networking moves that have happened over the years, Ripple is ahead of the game. They have been strategically planning this. It's the same thing that goes with the Hidden Road acquisition. Like these things are all planned. Ripple is absolutely killing the game, and I do think that they have been signaling what's happening for quite some time, and we're now at that point where it's no longer about speculation. It's no longer about, oh yeah, I think this is going to happen. No, it is happening. Wall Street is moving on chain. It's proof. You have it right in front of you right here. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out.